Well, I will use the past year question, which is past year 2018 question 3. So I summarize it here as Kia. Kia Sdn Bhd is a controlled company formed on the 1st of March 2015 with the payout capital of 200,000 ordinary shares at 1 ringgit per share. May Henny Enterprise owns 40,000 shares unit in the company on the 1st of January 2016. Kia is the one that acquire interest in real property worth 700,000. At that, the total tangible asset of the company was 860,000. So this one I just want to illustrate how to achieve the first part of trying to target the question, to analyze whether the transfer occurs on the RPC. So what is an RPC? So Kia Sdn Bhd is a control company. It's already given in the question, and it has acquired 700,000 on a total tangible asset of 860, which is 31%. So it fulfills the two criteria, and therefore Kia Sdn Bhd is a real property company. So when it is a real property company, subsequently, whatever transfer of its shares will be subjected to RPGT as in 34A, Para 34A. So of course, subsequently, the question asks about the various share transfer. So during this process of various share transfers, what are the RPGT involved? So now we just pick on the clear one, which is on March 1st, 2017, Henny Enterprise sold 40,000 share at this price, 180,000. Follow with another, this one we ignore. We just want to take this 40,000 shares at 180,000. So let's say we go back to the Para 34A. There is a formula A over B times C, A over B times C, where A is the number of shares deemed to be chargeable asset, B is the total number of issued shares, and C is the defined value of the real property. So the defined value of the real property in Kia scenario is 700,000. The transfer, which is the chargeable asset, is the 40,000 because the transfer of 40,000 shares. The total number of shares is at the time 300,000. So in the proportion of this 700,000 real property, the amount that has been transferred should be 93,333. However, the disposed share actually able to make 180,000. So the gain that is made is actually 86,667 round up. So this amount is considered a gain for the chargeable asset, which is the share worth 93,333. So this amount of gain was made during the time within 3 years, so subjected to 30% RPGT gain tax. So this is calculated at 26,000. So it's an example of how you apply 34A to calculate the amount supposed to be paid for the transfer of the RPC share. So if the company at that time is not an RPC, then you cannot use 34A to arrive at this. Anyway, we need to understand what is a controlled company. Sometimes it's not given in the question, but sometimes it is given, and sometimes it is a trick where it describes something but never tell you it is not a controlled company. A lot of time, example here, ABC developer is a property developer with 90% of its total tangible asset in real property, because it's a property developer and it is listed in Bursa, Malaysia. And this is not telling you it's a control or not a control company, because by definition, a control company is not listed, not a control company, because this one is listed in Bursa, so it cannot be a control company. Usually this is the case where in question he will tell you, but then he will not give you any clue yet as whether it is a control company or not. So what is a controlled company? Under Section 2 of the Income Tax Act 1967, a controlled company is like a Sdn Bhd company, not a listed company, and it has shareholders are less than 50 lah. Normally, a Sdn Bhd company is less than 50. If more than 50, it will be a Bhd company lah. So a Bhd company can also be not listed lah. It can choose to stay as a Bhd company, but not those are listed, or not even a public company. So it is a private company, Sdn Bhd. So, like say in this case, the developer who is more than 50 shareholders, it can be also a company that doesn't get listed, that doesn't get listed in the Bursa. But anyway, any reason that it is not a control company, you can see from the aspect here, the control company cannot have more than 50 shareholders, and it is not controlled by more than 5 members. Normally, board of directors in a small company would be about 3 or 4%. But of course, you can have board of director of a company that has 10 or 20 people. So because they are relatives, so most of them are board of directors. So if that is the case, then it again need to be specified in the question. So control company by definition in the law section 2 of the Income Tax Act 1967 is less than 50 shareholders and controlled by not more than 5 members. Usually this one would not come out in the D04 because that is more to company tax. Company tax. RPC shares, I want to illustrate, is like this. So let's say we have 3 scenarios. First is Findway is a company that is a control company, Sdn Bhd, with 100,000 shares formed on the 1st of January 2020. And then over time, it acquired 800,000 property. And the tangible asset in the company now becomes 1 million. So the 800,000 house over the 1 million total tangible asset is at 80%. So by the time it is on the January 1st, 2021, it became a RPC because it fulfilled both as a control company as well as the 75% and above tangible asset being a real estate property. Then on the subsequent year, Findway disposed of the 800,000 property on the 1st of January 2022. So it now has no more real estate, so it now go back to become normal, no more as a real estate holding company, and therefore not a real property company. So you can see in the initial stage, it is not a RPC. It became a RPC and then sold off the property and returned back, not being a RPC. So this is a graphical or diagrammatic way I want to show you how the RPC will affect its share. So there is a phrase called once RPC shares, always RPC shares. So in the case I put here in orange color, when you acquire shares after the 1st January 2021, because the company bought the property on time, and you acquire the share after it became an RPC company. So when you acquire the share here, you are subject to RPC share treatment by RPGT. But how about when you dispose it later? That means you hold the shares longer time until later, even after the company actually sold its property away and the company returned to be not a RPC company. You dispose of the shares later. In the law, in this scenario, you hold the RPC share and it is always an RPC share. When you actually hold it later and dispose it, you're still subject to RPGT. So this is the illustration of once RPC share, always an RPC share. Next, if we consider this, when you dispose off, only then you acquire the share. So when you acquire the share, when the company is already not an RPC company, and you hold on to this share and you sell it later, because you have not bought the share when it was an RPC company, so it is not an RPC share. So when it's not an RPC share, you dispose it later, it is still not a RPC share. So unless in the scenario here, the company became a RPC again. So in this case, it did not become a RPC. You hold it as a share, normal share without the RPC, and you sold it later, dispose it later, it is not subjected to RPGT because it was never acquired as an RPC or became an RPC. Right, then I want to give you the last one. When you acquire it before, that means before it was a RPC company, and later on the company became a RPC. Now these shares became RPC shares the moment that the company acquired the real estate. So it means you acquire it as a non-RPC share, but the company became RPC, the share automatically on the date of becoming RPC changed to become an RPC share. And when it became a RPC share, you always follow these rules. Once RPC, will always be RPC. So when the thing is disposed of later, and eventually when you dispose of the property itself, it is still subjected to RPC, RPGT, sorry, it's still subjected to RPGT because at one time it became, this share that you held became an RPC share. So it became an RPC share, it will never become non-RPC, it will always be an RPC. So when it becomes an RPC share, it will always attract RPGT. So this is the scenario when I mentioned in the first scenario, when a share became an RPC share and later on disposed of, irrespective whether the company still hold the property or not, it will always be an RPC share. So let us go back. So when you acquire the share here and then you sold it later, it became a RPC share. Similarly, if you acquire the share before it became an RPC, but these shares in the company later, because of this acquisition of a RPC company, become a status of RPC company, the whatever share that you held earlier on became a RPC share on the time it actually became RPC company. So it depends on when it became an RPC company, and later whenever you need to dispose of the share that is RPC share, you always be an RPC share. So not an RPC, when you acquire the share here, when it became RPC, automatically the share became RPC share. Even you hold it until you dispose of the property and became back as a non-RPC, it's still an RPC share. So this one I just want to be clear. Right. Now, when the share became an RPC share and it was sold again to a third party, in this case a third party, the person who acquired the share later on, actually the company is no more RPC, so it has no RPC share as a future treatment, no RPC, no RPGT. So I give you an illustration here. This one is extracted from Malaysian Taxation Principle and Practice, edition 7, page 636. Dr. Chung's question. Ronnie acquired shares in Land and Sand Sdn Bhd, RPC on 1st of January 1997. This is an old book, that's why they use the time of 97. The company have, however, ceased to be a RPC on the 1st of May 1999. Ronnie disposed of the shares on the 1st of January 2001 to Adrian. So it is an anti-avoidance principle. So this part, you cannot avoid paying RPGT by using a company as a way to get out of RPGT. RPGT. So when the company actually bought real estate, became a RPC company, Ronnie afterwards dispose of the share has to be subjected to RPGT. So Ronnie is deemed to have acquired a chargeable asset as of 97 because the company became an RPC. As such, he is liable to RPGT on any chargeable gain if he disposes his shares on 2021. The status of the company at the time of disposal does not affect Ronnie because it sticks to the share. It doesn't stick to the company. But it would have an impact on Adrian, the purchaser, because Adrian, when he buys, if it is RPC share, he has to retain the money for RPGT gain to pay to the government. So here it says that it affects the Adrian in this manner. This one I will go to later in the subsequent presentation. Also in the presentation of CKHT3. CKHT3 is a requirement by CKHT3 that whoever purchase need to file in for RPGT. An interesting point is that Ronnie had disposed of the chargeable asset, but Adrian did not acquire a chargeable asset. Yet he is duty to report. Whether Adrian is acquiring a chargeable asset or not is determined by the reference to the status of the company at the point of purchase. So at the point of purchase, 2021, if Adrian purchased at 2021 and the company is no more RPC company, then the shares that he purchased is not an RPC share. But however, Ronnie's disposal of the share is under RPGT because he inherited RPGT share, or he eventually hold because the company became RPC. So we do a simulation using a different name called Ron and Abu. So this is a company called L&S, the name a control company, 2 shares, I mentioned just now, 2 million company. It initially was a 2 ringgit company, and then it acquired property 2 million, it became a 2 million company. So it became a RPC straight away because it held a company held a property with 2 shares. Each share by then it should be 1 million per share because the company only hold one property at 2 million value. Then the company has 2 shares, so it means half, that means 1 million each. So let us do a scenario. On this, the share was held over time, 6 years, and then L&S sold the property at 3 million. So L&S made some money. So company got cash 3 million, but then no more property. Company sold off the property. So company share by right, because still 2 share, so by right 1 share became 1.5 million. So Abu, who is an outsider, came and buy this 1.5 million share. So how is the RPGT calculated? Because as from the beginning, you know that it was a control company, it acquired and became an RPC is mentioned, and later when over time sold at a profit. Later on, Abu and somebody outside came and buy 1 share at 1.5 million. So from the flow of the events, you know that the company L&S sold the property at 3 million at year 7. So year 7, if you follow the RPGT rates for a company, because it is a company who sells the property, so it's still 10%. So here I made a calculation of RPGT gains, 3 million minus 2 million, because the company acquired at 2 million and sold it at 3 million, so a gain of 1 million over 7 years. So 7 years for company is still 10% RPGT rate. So the RPGT payable 100,000. Then if Abu bought it at 1.5 million per share, this share for Abu is no more, because the company has already sold 2 million become 3 million make the money, and then Abu came and buy it later at 1.5 million. So this buying of the shares, we ignore the 1.5 million. We ignore the 1.5 million. We just say that, well, it is no more a RPC company. Therefore, Abu bought the share as a normal share, not a RPC share. So example 4, let's say we make it complicated. So now the same thing happened, but then Abu acquired the share before it was sold. Before the company sold off the property 3 million. So Abu acquired one share at 1.2 million from the original owner, which is the person who owns at 2 ringgit. And later on put in money, became 1 million per share. So the 1 million per share sold to Abu. Abu bought it at 1.2 million. So this 200,000 is actually extra paying to the company which holds the property that appreciate over time. Later on, LNS as a company sold off at 3 million. Company cash is 3 million. The normal property company share is 1.5 million because the property divided by 2 is 1.5 million. And how is it calculated? So let us say Abu acquired the share for 1.2 million at 6 years before the LNS sold the property. And then Abu disposed of the share after that, 7 years later. After the so-called property being sold, Abu and the original owner, Ron, sold the shares, exit from the company. So how? So now I split it out. If you think about it first, the first Abu acquired from Ron, because Ron was the original owner. Ron sold one RPC share to Abu at 1.2 million, so there was a gain, an RPGT gain, but then it is at 6 years. So for an individual, 6 years, because it sold from one individual to another individual, the rate is actually 0 at 6 years. So there is no RPGT for Ron, because Ron sold it after 6 years. Whereas LNS sold the property at 3 million, there is a LNS as a company still need to pay 10%, because company is subjected to whatever after 6 years, the 6 years above is still 10% RPGT. So this one we have explained earlier. Then if it is RPC share sold, because the acquisition of the shares was before the company ceased, before the company stopped to become RPC, so the share acquired by Abu and the Ron's share are all RPC shares. So when they were sold again later, if you look at Ron is 1.5 million minus, because he left with one share, 1.5 million, and then he sold at 1.5 million minus the 1 million when he actually originally, when the share became RPC share, 1 million, there was a 500,000 gain, but it was 7 years, so it's 0 so 0 for Ron. But then for Abu, because Abu bought it at the time when it's 6 years, so he sold it to a third party at 1.5 million. Although he paid it at 1.2, he made a gain within 3 years. So this gain of 300,000 is subjected to 30%. Individual within 3 years is still 30%. So this one kind of try to explain to you how interaction of RPC shares over time, as well as RPC share and individual company. Right, I'd like to conclude that this presentation on RPC shares what it is, and quite complicated. If you are first time getting to know about RPC, don't be discouraged or disappointed. Go back to your books and try to pick it up from more beginner stage. Historical background we went through. 1976, the RPGT Act came out. It was not including the RPC. And later with the share transfer tax in 1984, and later 1988, it introduced the Para 34A. So this Para 34 and 34, Schedule 2 of the RPGT talks about when a company acquired a property from an individual or a company not to become a vehicle to avoid tax. So the anti-avoidance rule. And talk about that also, we go back to Schedule 2, Para 3, Subpara 1B, which talks about no gain, no loss. When a person transfer, individual transfer his property, house or land or whatever real estate to his company, connected company. And in transfer of company between companies, sometimes it's also like company holds a lot of land bank, and it establishes a sister company, which is a plantation company. So this plantation company gets the land from the holding company. So when it is transferred from company holding to a plantation company, then the transfer of the property, if it is a RPC company, then it's no gain, no loss. But then the status of the RPC has to be established. So anyway, the definition of, we went through definition of controlled company and the 75%, which is to qualify to become RPC. So once RPC share, always RPC share so this one we went through some illustration, and we talk about when the disposal a few examples just now. When it is individual disposal or company disposal, then what type of treatment RPGT is affected. So individual or company, we went through that. Alright, thank you. I am Thomas PA2066. This is my mobile number as displayed. I have a few websites. One is myway.info, a geo-linking advertising website. Contract2you.com, a property ranking index, comparative index. My Real Property Online, you can find all my videos and some of my listings right up in this website. abacusrealestate.fund is a simple to operate website for people like negotiators. estateagentexam.com is my online self-study web portal for people who are studying for the diploma in estate agency examination by the Board of Value Appraisal Estate Agent Property Managers. Thank you for visiting my website and listening to my talk on this particular quite complicated area of RPC shares. I will do another one on CKHT forms. Meet you there. Thank you.